Ladies, imagine spending months planning your dream wedding, and then your fiancé says, white isn't for you. White is for cure brides. That's exactly what happened to me. When Ryan first mentioned the dress color, I thought it was about aesthetics. My fiancé had always been the artistic one in our relationship, the kind of guy who'd spend 20 minutes adjusting the angle of a picture frame or debating between eggshell and ivory for the living room walls. So when he casually dropped into conversation that maybe I shouldn't wear white to our wedding, I assumed he was envisioning some creative, Instagram-worthy color palette for our photos. We'd been together for 6 years, engaged for 8 months. I'd been drowning in wedding planning. Venue tours, catering menus, seating charts that felt like solving a Rubik's Cube blindfolded, while Ryan offered occasional input, mostly nodding along with whatever I suggested. This sudden opinion about my dress seemed like him finally engaging with the details. And honestly, I was just relieved he cared about something. "I'm wearing white," I told him simply, already mentally scrolling through the dozens of dresses I'd bookmarked online. Something flickered across his face, annoyance maybe, or something darker I couldn't quite identify. But he let it go, and I thought that was the end of it. It wasn't. 2 weeks later, I finally found it. The dress. Every bride knows that feeling, when you put on a gown and suddenly understand what all those reality TV shows are crying about. It fit perfectly, looked stunning, and most importantly, it was within our budget. I paid the deposit that same day, practically floating out of the bridal shop. When I got home, Ryan was waiting. Not the excited, tell me everything kind of waiting. The arms crossed, jaw clenched kind. "Did you find a dress?" "I did. It's perfect. You're gonna love it." I was high on the joy of finding it, oblivious to the storm brewing. "What color is it?" "I'm not telling you anything about it. I want it to be a surprise for our wedding day." I smiled, thinking this was romantic, this preservation of tradition and anticipation. "Just tell me the color," he pressed. "White." And I watched his face transform. Ryan threw a fit. Not the quiet, brooding kind of anger I was used to, but an actual explosive fit. He raised his voice, he paced the room, he looked at me like I'd betrayed him in some fundamental way, and I stood there completely bewildered, trying to understand why my dress color, the most traditional, expected choice in the world, had become a catastrophe. "What color did you think I'd be wearing?" I finally asked, my own frustration building. "Red." The word hung between us like a curse. Why would I wear red to our wedding? Because brides only wear white when they're pure. The air left the room. Pure. That word, with all its implications, all its judgment, all its ugly, antiquated weight, I stared at the man I'd agreed to marry, the man I'd spent 6 years building a life with, and felt something fundamental shift beneath my feet. Let me back up. Ryan and I met when I was 21, and he'd just turned 20. We had mutual classes. He'd graduated high school a year early because he was brilliant, the kind of smart that made professors remember his name and ask him thoughtful questions. I was drawn to that intelligence, to his quiet confidence, to the way he saw the world through an artistic lens that made everything seem more interesting. He was a virgin when we met. I wasn't. I'd had one previous relationship, my high school boyfriend, a 4-year relationship that had been exactly what you'd expect from teenagers figuring out love and life together. We'd been each other's firsts, and when we went to different colleges, we'd drifted apart naturally, without drama or hard feelings. It was a closed chapter of my life, filed away in the learning experiences folder. But for Ryan, my sexual history became an open wound. Our first year together nearly destroyed us. His insecurity was constant, suffocating. He'd ask questions about my ex, then get angry at the answers. He'd compare himself, wondering if he measured up. He'd spiral into dark moods where I could practically see him torturing himself with mental images he'd invented. I was patient. I reassured him. I told him over and over that the past was past, that I'd chosen him, that what we had was real and present and all that mattered. Eventually, he seemed to heal. The questions stopped, the insecurity faded. We moved forward, built a life, planned a future. I thought we'd overcome it, that we'd grown past that painful first year into something stronger. I was wrong. He'd just buried it, let it fester in silence, waited for the perfect moment to resurrect it. And apparently, that moment was our wedding. This is about me losing my virginity when I was 18, I said slowly. Each word carefully controlled because I could feel something breaking inside me, before I even knew you existed. He didn't deny it. I tried reasoning with him. I pointed out that almost every bride wears white, that it's tradition, that it's what I'd been dreaming about since I was a little girl playing dress up. He remained unmoved, insistent that I'd be deceiving our guests, that everyone would think I was something I wasn't. The irony was almost funny. The only person being deceived here was me, and the deceiver was the man standing in front of me, revealing beliefs I'd never known he held. Ryan went to his mother. Actually went to his mother, like a child running to tattle, certain she'd take his side and convince me to abandon my white dress for something more appropriate for a woman with my history. His mother, bless her, looked at her son like he'd grown a second head. 2 nights later, the 3 of us stood in my living room, me, Ryan, and his mother, having the most surreal argument of my life. His mom calmly pointed out that Ryan was no longer a virgin either, so perhaps he should wear red as well. My fiancé burst into tears. Actual tears streaming down his face because his mother had dared to apply his own logic to his own life. He sobbed that it was different for guys, that I was the one who'd be deceiving everyone, that I should understand why this mattered so much. I watched him cry and felt nothing but disgust. This man wasn't even religious. We'd never attended church together, never discussed faith or biblical principles or any theological framework that might explain, if not excuse, his fixation on virginity. This was purely about his ego, his insecurity, his inability to accept that I'd had a life before him. After 6 years together, after countless conversations about building a future, after planning a wedding and picking out china patterns and discussing baby names, he was still obsessing over something that happened when I was a teenager, when he was probably still playing video games and worrying about acne. The question that kept circling my mind was this: what kind of marriage were we signing up for? Would he mention my impurity in his wedding speech, making some pointed comment disguised as a joke? Would he bring it up during arguments, using my past as leverage to win fights? Would he demand paternity tests for our children because deep down he'd never trust me? And if we had daughters, what kind of toxic purity culture would he impose on them, measuring their worth by their sexual history? I looked at Ryan, really looked at him, and realized I was staring at my future. A future of walking on eggshells, of managing his insecurity, of defending myself for choices I'd made before I'd even met him. A future where my worth would always be measured against an impossible standard, where I'd always be somehow less than, tainted, impure. I was done. What surprised me was what came after. The lies. Ryan had always been a liar, not about big things, not in ways that would justify ending a relationship on their own, but constantly, compulsively, about things that didn't matter. He'd lie about having allergies he didn't have. He'd lie about stopping for food before coming home. He'd lie about losing weight when his body hadn't changed at all. Little white lies, one after another, building a mountain of mistrust over 6 years. I'd learned to navigate around them, to verify everything he said, to trust nothing at face value. It was exhausting, this constant mental fact-checking, but I told myself it was just a quirk, something I could live with. After we broke up, I asked him point blank about the dress situation. Had his coworkers really been discussing it? Had someone actually suggested I shouldn't wear white? He couldn't give me a straight answer, wouldn't look me in the eye. I'll never know for certain, but my best guess is that he'd been consuming misogynist content online, those dark corners of the internet where men gather to rage about women's sexual histories and convince each other that any woman who isn't a virgin is somehow damaged goods. He'd probably invented the coworker conversation to have a way to broach the subject with me, to test the waters before revealing his true beliefs. The online harassment started almost immediately. Ryan took to social media and various forums, spinning narratives about our relationship that bore only a passing resemblance to reality. According to him, I'd cheated. I'd broken off our engagement over nothing. I was ran through. Charming phrase that. I was fat. I'd let myself go. I looked miserable without him. My feeds filled with strangers who'd never met me, repeating Ryan's lies, calling me names, dissecting my appearance and my character based on nothing but his bitter retelling. No one threatened me directly, thank God, but the volume of vitriol was suffocating. I never responded, not once. I refused to give him or his audience the satisfaction of knowing they'd gotten to me. Eventually, like all internet storms, it died down. Ryan stopped posting about me, moved on to whatever else was feeding his need for validation and attention. What hurt more than the harassment was how little he fought for us. For all his tears and anger about the dress, when I actually ended things, he seemed almost relieved, like he'd been looking for an excuse all along, and I'd finally given him one. 6 years together, and he let me walk away with barely a protest. 2 weeks after calling off the engagement, I went on a date. It wasn't about finding someone new. It was about testing whether I felt guilty about moving forward, whether some part of me still belonged to Ryan in the life we'd almost built together. The guy was nice enough. We went to a waterfront restaurant in North Carolina, ate seafood, made small talk. I felt nothing. No guilt, no regret, no longing for what I'd lost. Just relief. I wore red to that date, by the way. A nice, form-fitting red dress. The irony wasn't lost on me.